This is Respite, written by Kraiva. Part 23 of Surrogate, the Director's Cut. The rating is mature. No archive warnings apply. The fandom is Malevolent, the podcast.
Additional tags. Heads up, violence to an amorphous eldritch creature. Nibs is doing her job. Sad goat hours. Points and screams, "She's just a baby!" Hurt/comfort, but in a parental way. Shub's a good mom, but a human is a human. Voices by CharlieGoLightly, Lith, Igneous, Scottie, and Flamia as the dark young siblings, Vmprsm as the narrator and Nibbles, Flamia as Shub-Niggurath, SSJTrinity, Kraiva, and Somniate as the work introduction. Editing by Flamia, directed by Vmprsm, transcript by Saffron, created and posted with permission from the authors of Surrogate, the Director's Cut.
The threat on Faro's life has revealed unforeseen consequences. This is hard enough for a little girl to process. It's also hard for a young child of an outer god.
Nibbles was, at one point, a very good girl. She couldn't help it. Faro had made it very easy to be good, because Faro was easy to love, and Nibbles loved her Faro with her whole heart. Her sacred work she'd enjoyed, even despite the challenges that arose with the expected clumsiness of an almost 6-year-old human. How many ways could one little girl possibly die? The list was endless and appeared to be ever-growing. That was, of course, before everything came crashing down. Nibbles performed her duty, as she always did. Today was rough. Faro had cried with her arms around Nibbles' neck off and on for most of the day, only leaving her room to go down to meals. But the awful celebration the King in Yellow had ordained after the second fall of Sarkomond. Faro had nearly been in tears and had excused herself early, so regal, so polite. Nibbles did not think she was a good girl anymore. There was no satisfaction when she caught a small, amorphous, scurrying thing in the shadows near Faro's room. She stared at it dispassionately as it squirmed beneath her hoof and begged wordlessly, pathetically, for its paltry life. Nibbles looked down at it with resignation. They were not so dissimilar, she thought, even as she snaked her head down to seize the creature, tossed it in the air, and her throat unzipped itself into a toothy maw that snapped shut around it and silenced it forever with a horrible crunch. She chewed in silence, not even able to find the simple joy of eating within her aching chest. She slid back into Faro's room like a shadow, and her heart shuddered when she realized the girl was crying again. This was her fault. She lay her head down on the mattress beside Faro, and the girl turned, wordlessly through her sniffles, to pet Nibbles' nose. It took time for her to get back to sleep before she tired herself back out, and it was then that Nibbles knew. She was a bad girl. And that thought so shocked her, so filled her with horror and self-loathing, that she exploded into a run straight out of the window and into the open air. Her hooves hit the ground like thunder, and Nibbles ran. She ran like she was trying to outrun an outer god. She ran like she was trying to outrun death itself, like if she sprinted fast enough, she could leave her shame behind. A wail rose in her throat as she sprinted, and with an unconscious surge of power, the gardens of Carcosa gave way to leaf litter and fallen twigs, to tall, dark trees, to home. Home. A thunderous crash sounded to her right, and she heard them.
Sister, why do you weep? You lot are foolish.
The voice was familiar.
Clear the way, Trinity's mother.
Above her, a massive shape surged forward, knocking trees out of her way as she ran, and Nibbles looked up, tears streaming behind her like the tail of a comet, to see her elder brother who had brought her to accursed Carcosa in the first place.
Mother.
Her other siblings murmured.
Yes, she is my mother. Bring us to sweet sister. We will clear the way.
The woods parted before her, trunk-like legs moving out of her way with surprising speed, and trees themselves pulled with massive tentacles to clear her path. She was so much faster than her elder siblings, and they struggled to keep her pace and her path clear. Her elder brother flagged behind her, so slow compared to her. And then she arrived in her presence.
Mother Pine!
Nibbles skidded to a stop.
I have been deceived!
Oh, baby.
Mother's presence swept around her like a warm blanket draped across her back, and Nibbles felt a thumb wipe the tears from her many eyes as she began to weep.
One yellow charlatan spoke sweet lies to me. His honeyed words belie a callous cruelty. Mine charge suffers, tender heart rent by death dealt too soon. Mine furrow lies cracked and leaking, and I have failed.
Come here, my darling.
Nibbles felt the press of Mother against her, and she collapsed into her side, thrashing and moaning.
I knew this might happen when I sent you to Carcosa. It's his nature, sweet thing. Just as it is the nature of the girl to love you.
Nay! Unloved! Unloved!
Oh, nonsense. I know these things, my child, and I know she loves you still. Anyone with a functioning nose could smell it on your very soul.
Mother nuzzled against Nibbles' tiny head, dwarfing her, wrapping her up in safety and warmth and comfort.
I can see how hard this is for you. It is always hard when we experience an undesirable outcome. But it is how we learn, how we grow.
Mine failure hath harmed my charge.
And I have let you come to harm by proxy. You would be right to despise me for harming you in this way. Am I now unworthy of your love?
Never!
Nibbles buried her face in Mother's side, taking in her familiar scent.
I knew something like this may happen when I sent you, Nibbles. It made my heart ache, just as it did when each of your siblings left my side. As much as I love you, you must learn to stand on your hoofs by yourself, if you wish to become the companion of this child.
Mother, I beseech thee!
Nibbles pulled herself from Mother's side.
Save her! Save mine furrow from the Yellow King and the Faceless One! Raise her in kindness, I beg!
I will not.
Nibbles stomped her hooves on the ground.
Oh, you despise me! You hate your Nibbles!
Stop that.
A massive tentacle plucked her from the ground and cradled her back against Mother's side.
This is not our choice to make, little one. I understand you are upset, but it is not our place to interfere with the workings of another outer god.
He wishes her to suffer. He wishes them all to suffer. He is cruel.
It is his nature.
Nibbles leaned into the sensation.
We cannot save every little mortal who catches our eye, my darling. They are not like us. Even the longest lived among them are like a blink to me, to the elders of your siblings. Their nature is to grow, to change that which is around them, and finally, to die. Her life will end eventually, perhaps in 4 years, perhaps in 4 million. I do not know. But it is not our place to interfere if it has been ordained by he who has appointed himself arbiter of that spectacle.
Nibbles pressed her face back into Mother's side, another sob racking her body.
If this distresses you too much, you do not need to return. I ask very much of you, and do not enjoy seeing you in pain. You may stay here in the wood with your siblings until you are ready to leave once more. It will take time for me to undo the changes I made to make you more palatable for mortals, but it will be done if you but ask.
Nibbles shuddered, silent for a long moment.
But Faro!
She will cease to be your burden, my darling.
Nibbles lay her head down on her mother's great hide, feeling the rise and fall of her side.
I cannot betray my charge, my dearest friend, but I have not the strength to protect her, mother mine.
Yes, you do. I would not bring my children to any burden I thought they could not shoulder.
Something like a gentle kiss pressed itself to Nibbles' forehead.
This is not an easy task you have been given, and I see how hard you have worked. But your task is not to still her tears, my darling. It is to carry her through the agonies to the other side, wherein lies strength and beauty and understanding. I am very proud of you.
I am unworthy.
You question your mother, cheeky little thing.
Nibbles nuzzled into her mother's side.
Now, as loath as I am to send you, are you ready to return?
Nibbles shuddered. To go back to that awful place where Hastur lay in wait with his gloating and his lies.
Mother!
They sounded from the woods around them.
Mother! How resisted to remain a bit longer? We implore you.
But mine Faro!
I volunteer to keep watch over the kinglet for this night.
Her elder brother stepped forward.
I volunteer as well.
A sister.
As do I, and I.
Very well. You may stay for a bit longer, my gentle one. Your siblings will kindly take your watch tonight.
She reached out a limb to stroke Nibbles' nose.
But by dawn, you must resume your post. There?
You love your Nibbles.
Nibbles curled against her mother's side.
I do. And will you be a good girl when you return?
The most good.
I knew I could count on you.
Nibbles lay her head back down, closed her eyes, and let her mother's warmth guide her to peace. Back Like in Carcosa, an unfamiliar shadow stretched across the window of the composer's quarters. Arthur snored softly as John cracked their eyes open, darting this way and that, trying to pick out what exactly it was that had changed. Was that a tree? There weren't any trees in the courtyard, much less one that tall. He contemplated waking Arthur to ask his opinion when a massive horizontal pupiled eye opened in the cracks between the bark and stared back at him. Maybe it was better Arthur slept through this one. John closed his eyes again, left hand curled protectively around Arthur's chest, and decided whatever this horseshit was, it could wait until morning.
If you enjoyed this production of Surrogate, the Director's Cut, please read the original written work on AO3, where it is still actively updating as of November 2024. A link is in the work notes, where you can also find the social medias of all the production cast. Malevolent was written and produced by Harlan Guthrie, and all characters depicted here belong to their respective creators. The cast and management produced this show for no monetary gain, and all rights remain with the authors. Any sound effects or music used in this production were obtained legally or are created by the production cast. Please let us know your thoughts, and as Kane would say,
stay tuned for the next episode!